Hi and welcome back. Okay, it's time to start the engine. I've read the instructions probably 3 or 4 times, been back through videos. I've been onto the Sonex LLC website and looked at the building of the engine on the beautifully put together a video series on it from Joe Norris. Looked at Gavin's YouTube clips, the DVD that I bought also with the kit as well. Just went through all that. It sort of replicates exactly the same as what Joe Norris did on YouTube. So here I am, ready to do what I'm going to be starting on first, and that is just the preparation of the engine block. There's obviously a few modifications from the motor engine for the V-dub as opposed to the Aero V conversions. So today's job is going to be just to sort of mask up for paint, and that's about it. So mask the cylinders, which I have to do, mask the block up. I have already done the modification for the oil return line, I think it is, for the turbo, I'm not sure, but that goes up in a location very close to where the distributor would normally be on the V-dub. So I'll bring the camera around and have a bit of a look at the engine block and just go through a couple of things on that. Okay, here you go. It's all been cleaned out. All the little burry bits been taken off. Wasn't too bad. I'm not sure to what extent we're supposed to go and clean up the edges. I'm assuming if there's anything that sort of does break off or does fall off or whatever, or you miss, hopefully I haven't missed anything. It'll get picked up in the oil filter anyway. So I've given it a blowout, I've given it a white spirits clean, I've given it a tub wash in the soapy water, and that's about it. Here's the modification for this little right angle fitting here that goes sort of down this way and then comes back into here somewhere. So that's about it. So it's all been cleaned. I'm going to put the two halves back together again now and mask it all up. I'm going to mask up all of the pistons, cylinders, and when I say pistons, the piston cylinders. The pistons are just left in there as part of the transportation process. They've got to come out again, and we have to check all the rings and everything. And I'll spray those as well, and spray all the block. I just bought some high temp paint from my local hardware. I'm not sure if I need anything more than 300, I think it is. Yeah, 300 degrees. I'm not sure if it, I'm assuming it is. Knowing my luck, I'll probably spray it and it'll reach hotter than 300 degrees. So anyway, there you go. So let me mask all this up now and we'll get stuck into this morning. Okay, all sprayed up. Pretty easy job, I guess. So still drying, so it'll be dry overnight or drying overnight, and then I can take all the masking tape off and then start the next part of the engine build. Come back to you shortly. Hi and welcome back. Okay, it's time to start to assemble the components that fit inside the actual engine casing itself, or the engine block. It's been drying overnight, the cylinders are all done, the engine block is all done. And the first one of those components is the actual crankshaft itself. And if you see me struggling picking this up, it is very, very heavy. I'd hate to have a guess how heavy it is. It's, you know, it's heavy. So I had that made in the factory itself. This presses on through heat and God knows what, so, or actually the bearing goes on with heat, but I didn't want to have that hassle of doing that. It was just as easy to pay Sonex a few extra bucks at the time to manufacture this in their workshop when they do it all the time. But obviously we've got to do all the rest of the components in the engine. So let's look at the next part of the build, and that is going to be with the camshaft. The camshaft is, there's not much to it other than 3 little bolts inside here. It's the orientation that is the key. to getting it right, because the orientation for this has to align with that. So let's get all these components out. We'll bring the camera down and we'll have a little bit of a look at what's involved with it. Okay, in the cam assembly kit, it may come, according to Sonex, with a different style of bolt. These were in a separate plastic bag amongst the kits in the engine component hardware. I believe the main difference is this washer on some of the other kits. I think some of them have one of those washers where it sort of bends up, so you can knock it up with a screwdriver and it can't sort of come undone that way. We'll be using the red Loctite. Now I believe Loctite themselves have been bought out by Permatex, which was the old style of color coding in the actual thread lock systems themselves. I think there was a blue one of these, and the other ones were red, and they come in high strength, mid strength, and low strength. Now you're forgetting, according to the website now, is the number. I think they keep the number on there just to give those that have been recognised, or those that have recognised the numbers, a bit of an idea of what they're buying. But if you look on here, you'll see there's a red line through there. So red is representing high strength. The blue one, you can see the difference between those two, is mid strength, and there's one I think with the green on it, which is the low strength. So we're supposed to be using the high strength in this kit. 20 foot-pounds torque wrench has already been set up. This is the most important thing, and I've looked at it about 1,000 different ways, and there's really only one way that it could go on here. You can't really stuff it up. So orientation purposes is this line through here, and I believe it's some sort of this is where the oil pump, I think, keys into at some stage, and as the cam is turning, it's pumping the oil around the engine. But I'll get to learn that at a later stage, and I don't profess to know everything about these engines yet, but I'm really excited about learning everything I can about it. On here there's a small dot that you see, which lines up with the crank between two dots, so we'll get onto that at a later stage. So I've tried this 1,000 different ways. You can see the holes inside here that align. If you turn that way to the next lot of holes, this is not facing upwards to that little dot. You do it over this way, the same thing, it's not facing upwards to that dot, so you can only really do it one way, even if you sort of turn it around the other way and have this facing up. This alignment here is not aligned going up and down. So according to Sonex, you align this upwards. There it is there. It's the only one way it can go. Also too, I believe it's quite hard to torque this up to the 20 foot-pounds. So I've made up a little jig, so hopefully that will just slide in there like that. It can't now turn. I'm going to clamp that to the bench and do this over here and crank it up. So let's get this prepared and get it started and see how we go in the next few minutes. Come back to you shortly. Okay, that's done. It was extremely hard. I can see why now it takes 2 people. I actually took it out of it after I thought I'd torqued it all up and tried it on the workbench by holding it with like a leather glove on here, and I couldn't do it, so I had to put it back in there. And 2 out of the 3 were torqued up. The last one just needed that little bit clink, so it's all good. So 1 completed camshaft. Next, I believe we can start to disassemble all of the masking tape around the cylinder blocks and everything, and start to prepare for the con rods. So let's clear the all the materials off this block and see what it looks like painted up. Hi and welcome back. I'm just at a bit of a standstill with the next part of the assembly, being the connecting rods, for this reason. According to the Sonex video series, all of the numbers that are stamped on here are for mating purposes only, so the 2 corresponding numbers must relate when you pull them apart. You can't swap the lower part of the con rod with another one, because they've all been made and balanced to suit this rod. The other part of the mentioning from Joe was that some con rods have a little mark on here which says that it has to all face in the same direction. I'm not sure which direction that was. He mentioned whether it's up, whether it was down or not, but let's just assume it was facing up. And the instructions give us a representation of the crank, showing in which orientation to suit the varying locations of the con rods, with the emphasis on the little marks in the bottom here, which are an anti-rotation mark for the bearings themselves. So the bearing has a little bit of a tang on it, so once that clips in there, the bearing can't swivel around, which makes a lot of sense. Now the problem that I have is that if I follow what is said in the video series to keep all the numbers facing up, then 2 of the con rods will have the anti-rotation facing down and 2 will have them facing up. I would assume that the anti-rotation must all go the one way, because it clearly says in the instructions that the connecting rods are installed. Wait 1 second. Sorry, the connecting rods are installed on the crankshaft in the orientation shown above and with the bearing anti-rotation notches facing down. So if I do that, then the 2 of the numbers stamped in numbers will be facing down and 2 will be facing up. So I've quickly sent an email to Sonex, and I've also sent a quick question under the community hub on my YouTube channel, hoping that someone's going to give me the answer. The other thing that I want to point out is that on these con rods there's a little dot, like a raised nodule on here. Now if I orientate those all the same way, then the same thing is going to happen. That if I face them all the same way, then the rod itself, because one rod will have to go this way, one will have to go that way. One dot faces this way and one dot will face backwards. That is if all the bottom recesses are kept facing, all these recesses in the con rods are facing down. So I'm going to leave it at this for the moment. I'll move on to something else until I get an answer from Sonex. So it's going to be interesting, because that's the only conflicting thing to me that is inside the video series, as well as what's written in the instructions. Now, in Sonex's defense, Joe did say that you are to follow the instructions that come with your engine, because these get updated more often than what the video series does. So I'm not saying that Sonex are wrong in their explanation of which way the numbers go, and so let's just leave it at that before I get myself into a spot where I don't want to be, and I don't want to be accusing anybody of anything. So I know that I'll get an answer from somebody, be it on the web page or be it through Sonex. So let's close this one off and get on to another part of the build. Come back to you.